Thanks for coming to hang out with us today. Ruck Up Buttercup is a podcast hosted by Deployed Love. We chat about real things that military families deal with and help you to love the call to action. So you know the drill. Ruck Up Buttercup. Ruck Up Buttercup podcast can be found on all your favorite streaming location. As well, we are now available on Reach Across America Radio on Fridays at 11 p.m. and Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern. You can find Reach Across America Radio on the iHeartRadio app, the Odyssey app, and the TuneIn app. Just search the word Reach. Can't wait to see you there. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Ruck Up Buttercup. We are just going to chat today. It's been a while since we've had just a fun girl chat, and today we wanted to get a chance for you to get to know us a little bit better, and we'd love for you to join us on our social media and join the conversation, because today we're going to be talking about just hobbies and things that we like to do. Obviously, at some point in this, we're going to get into books, because if you know me and Ashley, that's our hobby, our main hobby, but there's a lot of really cool hobbies, so I want to we'll just start with some of the other things that we both enjoy to do.
Well, yeah, and I think hobbies is a great thing to do for a military spouse, because we move so much and we meet so many new people that we can learn new hobbies that we never thought we would be able to do. Like, I would love to learn how to crochet and sew, and I have so many friends that can do it. So like, I'm just got to find the time to be like, hey, can you come over and teach me? I think that's like kind of a perk of being a military spouse.
It's an easy way to make friends, right? If you have a hobby, you automatically find people that you're familiar with that are going to want to do the same things. You're not stuck doing things they like with. Yeah.
On top of
a good way to start.
I think that's too, like, if you are ever kind of like, I'm having a hard time making friends, think about the things that you like to do. Like, do you like to hike? Do you like to craft? Do you like to read? Do you like to cook, bake, whatever it is? And then kind of put the feelers out for like, hey, like, I want to go do a cooking class. Who wants to go with me? Or anyone want to get together for wine night and craft? I feel like that's a great way to find people that you can mesh with, rather than say, hey, I'm brand new here. Who wants to be friends? Like, find somebody that can vibe with a little bit better by like introducing yourself or showing like, hey, these are my hobbies.
And I think that there's a lot of spouse groups already established. I know at least here at Stuttgart, they have the spouses group, whatever it's called, and they have each little subcategory for all those things. They even have like whiskey tours. They go out and do tastings of whiskey. Like, so there's lots of ways to do that, even if you don't want to start something, because I know that especially at a new place, when you don't know places, it's hard to start a group, because you're like, oh yeah, let's meet up for coffee. Coffee's my thing. But you don't know where any of the coffee shops are. Like, that's not going to be super easy to do. So,
no, yeah, that's for sure. I definitely wish that I had found some of these groups a lot sooner than I did. Here at Fort Bragg. And it's interesting because like now I have like all these other people that like are just now coming into my circle because we've connected on our hobbies. And what's great about hobbies is it changes. Like, you know, we had this conversation, maybe in another podcast or something, or maybe just between the two of us, but, you know, we both loved books growing up, and then we kind of like fell out of it. And then you started getting back into books, and you're just like, you have to read these series. And I was like, I just don't have time to read. But then I was just like, no, I need to make time for the things that I really enjoy. Like, I loved reading growing up. That was a huge part of who I was. And so I was like, I need to make time. Like, I had a hobby that I just didn't like, wasn't bringing joy to my life anymore. Like, I was making like tumblers and decals and all this kind of stuff. And I was just like, I loved it at the beginning, but then after a while, it just started to stress me out. Like, I was like, this is not enjoyable anymore, and I don't want to do it, but I need to replace it. Like, I need to find something else that brings joy. And I think that's what's important about a hobby, is it should bring you joy. It should bring you comfort, help you relax.
Well, it should give you some sense of identity. I think that's some of the thing is, like, as spouses, especially now, we talked about in the past couple episodes, is I can't work over here. So my identity in what it used to be isn't there anymore. And so then I have to think about, like, how am I doing things for myself? Because we were talking about before I got on, I feel like all I do is clean all day long. We have a big house, and all I do is sit around the house and clean, and that sucks. So it's like, you got to find hobbies that like in between cleaning, I go and read, or I'll go do my bullet journal, which is one of my favorite hobbies, which
I,
it's just crafty. It's fun.
I know. I love that you do that. I think I'm too OCD
I think
for,
you would love it. I
for
think you just have to start. That's the biggest thing. Is if
yeah.
you were to look at the beginning of my bullet journals, like from when I first started doing it, it was just lists and it looked like crap. But now
See,
I decorate
I'm
it and
so OCD about like my handwriting stuff. Like first off, I hate my handwriting. For someone who's super crafty, who's always been like in the artsy like stuff, my handwriting is just atrocious. Like, and then it's never the same. Like I'm between like half cursive, half like regular like writing, and it's just everywhere. And but it bothers me to see it like if I'm trying to make something visually like appeasing, like a calendar and stuff. So I've always wanted to do bullet journaling. I think it looks so pretty and it's fascinating to love. I love everything that you've been doing. Like you've been sharing photos, and I'm like, that's so cute. Like I wish I could do that. And I know I should try it.
it's not a huge
But like,
commitment. It's like $5 for a notebook and some
yeah,
pens.
I should just get it and then just try it. But then I'm like if I make one mistake, like I'm not even kidding. If there's one mistake, I'm just like, no. Like that was like my calendar. Like I went through that whole calendar thing when you were doing your calendar thing, and I was like, ooh, like I can make it all pretty, and then make one mistake, and I'm like, I'm not
I'll
even
give
gonna use
you
this.
a new one. I don't know if you've heard of it. I learned it off of TikTok is Notion. I'm obsessed. I'm moving all my stuff digital to Notion because you can customize every single aspect of it. Like I obviously
So is it an
the
app?
viewers won't be able to see this, but it's also an app. Yeah, so it's a lot easier to use on
Cool.
your computer. But this is where's my camera? This is my Notion. So it's got my notebook. It's got beautiful pictures. I have lists for like my
Ooh.
job, for homeschooling, for the podcast. Got all these different lists and they open up. So like here's like my housework chores. And down here I have like a list of the things that I want to do each day to keep up on tasks. So it's like a bullet journal, but digital. And it's like my new, it's hard at first because it definitely, you have to sit there for like hours to kind of
Hours and
customize it
like
to things.
organize and customize it. Yeah.
But yeah, I have a running to-do list in here. I have a calendar in here. I have just a photo, like a section where I can just dump everything out of my mind into it. And it's amazing. Like it is like the digital version of bullet journaling. So I even have
Yeah.
a travel section in here. So I've been putting like my pictures in that travel section and then
Fun.
like you can like scrapbook in it. You can add stickers and pictures and
Okay, I'm gonna have to go look at that
so
for
you
sure.
can't mess it up. And it's like so I
Yeah.
try to like
See,
I
that's
want to
my
keep my
thing.
bullet
Like,
journal
yeah.
for like my scrapbooking stuff because I want to keep like the pink tickets from the other night are gonna I want to keep
Mhm.
that stuff. But this is gonna be so much easier for like keeping to-do lists and not worrying about crossing things off or writing things
And it
wrong
just
or
looking
not getting the
messy.
to-do list
Yeah.
done, which is super irritating when I'm like, oh, I had that
Mhm.
on that day. And so that's
Yeah.
kind of a fun
Or
way
like
to do
you
it.
cross off like 4 or 5 things, and then you're just like, that bothers me. So then you rewrite your list, and then you're just like feel like it's never things are crossed off because you keep rewriting it.
Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah.
Um, but I also love like you still journal though, right? Like you still write like daily.
Yeah,
I
that's
wish
what I use
like
in
that was another
it's more
thing.
like a scrapbook anymore. But yeah, at the end of my bullet journal for the month. So at the beginning, I have like all my habits and all that stuff. And then I have like, I start day by day, just writing like a little bit each day. Some days it's like, oh, today will be like, oh, I sat at home and cleaned all day. It wasn't really exciting. And it'll just be a couple lines, but then like I'll have a whole page for pink where I have the ticket is stapled in there. I have a picture of me and Kara at the concert and stickers all over it. And then, journaled throughout the whole thing, which it's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I've always wanted to journal too, but again, I think more me is like I have a hard time putting words onto paper. Like I can literally give you a monologue. We all know this. I can monologue all day long. But if I put it like if I have to type it out or write it out, like I'm just kind of like, what was I gonna put down? Like I don't even remember
I
what I was
kind of
gonna write.
write it like as a letter to my kids because I feel like I'm never going to go back and read this stuff, really likely. But if I were to pass away, it's something that they would be able to go back and look and like, what was mom thinking? What was
Yeah.
mom feeling on those days? And I would treasure something like that for my grandparents. Absolutely
Yeah.
would treasure that. So it,
You saying that makes it a little bit like, oh, like, yeah, I could easily write, like, today we had so much fun. Like, this is what I enjoyed about our day with together as like I was writing it to my kids. That's an interesting take on that
it's really
because
nice. Yeah. Because I feel like if something were to happen, they have this whole, and I've done it for years, right? So they have all this planners and everything. Even in my planner, I used to do that every day, would write a journal entry in there. And so it's like they'll have for years memories, things that especially as they're young, they don't remember themselves. They'll see pictures, but they don't remember. And this gives them that opportunity to be like, oh, well, this is what actually happened. I remember seeing that picture on my mom's social media when she posted about it or talked about it, but this is what was actually happening that day.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's why I take so many photos. My husband gets so annoyed. He's like, why can't you just be present? I was like, because I remember doing all these things as a kid, growing up as a military kid and living overseas and stuff like that, that I don't have all those photos that I can go back and look at and, be like, oh, that was when we went there, things like that. There's some, but there's not a lot. And so I was like, as well as I don't remember having photos to look of my dad when he was gone. And I know my kids love to look at photos of dad when he's gone. Like, oh yeah, we did this on this date. Or why wasn't dad with us on that trip? Because dad was here. So it's a great reminder of, where we've been and where we're going.
Yeah, I love documenting everything. I mean, we have a vlog, not that anybody watches it, but it's honestly just for us because my kids sit there at Christmas time. So the main time that we do it is around the last month of the year. We do vlogging every day, and my kids will sit there at Christmas time and rewatch the years before, and it's so cute to just watch
That's such
little
a
babies
cute
and
thing though.
yeah, and they have that documented, and we do some through, like our travels we tend to do vlogs on, and I want them to have that so that they can remember because my parents recorded us, but they're all on like VHS, and Lord knows if we'll ever see them again. So like
Yeah.
it's super cool to have it on digital format, and I'm sure YouTube will be there forever, whether it's popular or not, but we can still go up there and watch the videos when we want to. And so I think documenting is so important, especially as military families. I think like if something were to happen, like you would have these memories that are visual and
Yes.
there all the time.
Yes. And I think that's really important. And I think like, especially now that like we've entered a completely different era from when we were young spouses, young kids, young spouses going up, like we didn't have all these TikTok and, Facebook. Now, I will say, don't rely on social media to hold your memories because it's really quickly to lose. Like, my Facebook got hacked a couple years ago and I lost everything. So yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, I think I need to invest and figure out how much it costs to just like print all my albums because that would be super nice if we could just print a whole big old book and then not have to worry about losing it anywhere.
Well, or at least back it up somewhere. Like I actually got really happy yesterday the other day because I was kept on getting a notification from my Gmail that my storage was running out, and I was like, okay, like let me go clean up my personal one because it's really just junk mail. And I guess at some point I
Started backing it up.
I imported all of my photos from Facebook, and I have probably recovered 60% of the photos that I lost. There's still a lot missing from like my pregnancy photos and like some of the kids' early like baby photos, but between like myself and my mother-in-law who like saved everything, thank God, I have a lot of those photos back now, but I don't have any of like my blogging that I did with that though. Like I don't have any of the like, today you turned 1 month old and this is what you're doing. Like I don't have any of that. I have obviously my memories, but I mean, we all know that our memory is shot after a while when we keep up with everything. So like I don't remember like, every single detail. And that's the sucky part because, it took one really bored person to bring down my Facebook and my Instagram because they were connected and losing everything. And then so make sure you have those sentimental things backed up for sure. But I mean, like, I feel like hobbies nowadays in terms of social media, like that's a hobby to a lot of people, like TikToking. Like I still wish I could get my like the grasp on it. Like I try so hard.
I don't know how to go viral. I do it for myself anymore because I'm like,
yeah.
every single one of my videos gets like 50 views. I'm like, what is the point?
Well, like right now it's just Claire. Like, Claire, she's like, I really, because she's all about the TikTok dances right now. And so, and if you're listening, you don't know who she is. She's my 5-year-old. And she is just like, Mom, I want to do this. So she got all dressed up for the 4th of July. And she's like, I want to do Pretty Girls Walk like this. And I was like, fine. So I played the song and she just did this little dance. And my God, she's the cutest little thing ever. But like, yeah, it's pretty much just her on my TikTok.
I'll never understand the algorithm anyways. It's like, what is the, I have over 3,000 people that follow me, but
See,
40
I don't
people
even
see the
know. I don't
videos.
even
It's
know
like,
how many
what does that
people.
mean if they're following me and only 40 people are seeing it? I have no idea, but I do think it's fun. And I kind of, instead of doing YouTube videos, I've been doing a lot of our like travel stuff on there instead because
Yeah.
it's easy. It's 3 minutes. I don't
So
have to
I
actually
feel
sit and
like,
edit. Yeah.
and I feel like that's a great platform for you to do that because that is where so many people are doing it nowadays on their blogging. Like, um, for those also that listen that don't know, I also work for my family business, which is a tourist attraction in North Carolina. And I have I have influencers all the time reaching out and saying, like, hey, like, would you allow us to ride for X, Y, and Z? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Like, you have this, yes, we need more people, like, eyes on us, like, and it's a great marketing tool. Um, and it's a fun way to spend your time. Like, if you're traveling, why not give your
Record it.
recommendations or record it or say, hey, like, we like this, but we didn't like this, but this is why we like. I always like hope people put like, this is why we didn't like it because maybe our family just that wasn't their vibe or something like that. But I think that, like, going back to the hobby topic, like, having one, I think is really important to make you keep sanity, like, just making sure that you stay sane during the crazy stress that the military life brings.
Yeah, you were mentioning that you wish you'd join groups, but I think the problem was COVID killed all those groups. And
Mhm.
I know that because the book club that you're in now, I was part of, but it
Yeah, it
never
was
did
really
anything.
bad. Hmm.
Yeah, and so I think that that's a lot of the groups just unfortunately, and it's just starting over basically because at that
Yeah.
time everybody had moved also.
But I
So
think, like, finding your group, like, if you don't feel like you're meshing with the group, it's okay to either like find a different group or create your own or do something. Because there's several book clubs here at Fort Bragg. Some are newer. There's one that I feel here is very judgy, but that's just my opinion.
right.
So and then there's the one that I'm currently a part of that I really enjoy. And it's only been since February, January timeframe that it's starting to kind of pick up. I mean, last book club was something else.
I've never actually been part like active in any book clubs because I just feel like I read very different books. Like sometimes I get into the series, but I just read random books most of the time. So it's like hard for me, especially when they pick ones that are just super trendy, because a lot of times I don't like the trendy books. And so then it's like
Yeah.
I don't really want to read them. Like they always read
So
the most popular books, right?
yeah. And I think that's why I like this book club too, because like we decided that we were gonna pick two. Like we're gonna pick one pick was gonna be kind of that like admin pick. So like the admin team was gonna pick a book and then there would be a pull up for like the group to pick. And it's been kind of nice because there's been kind of two different genres majority of the time. Like I think this month is a fantasy. So this month we're reading Fourth Wing, which is I'm the hype of that book. That book is so good. And then the other book is The Housemaid, which I think is like a thriller
Hmm.
type of book. Um, which I haven't read that one yet, but it's really nice to have like the two options. And I've read some books outside of my comfort zone that I normally wouldn't pick up. That some of them I enjoyed, and some of them I'm like, yeah, it wasn't my thing, but another book down type of thing.
Yeah. I think book clubs are the easiest one for hobbies. I don't know. Like you said
Mm-hmm.
with the crocheting, I think there's a lot of people that do that. I just don't know. I know when I was at Schofield, which is like our first duty station, so I was tiny, I ended up going to some knitting crocheting group randomly and would go to their things, but I didn't know how to knit or crochet. So most of the time I just was like hanging out. But
Yeah.
I don't,
I
I'm assuming it exists still.
Yeah, I feel like I mean, or like craft groups or just people in general. I know, like, when we lived in Alaska, like, one of my favorite hobby groups I've been a part of, and it was actually like it was a hobby group, but it was also like a mom support group. So it was the baby wearing like mamas of Anchorage. And so we would meet up once a week where we would just meet up, try on different baby carriers, help new moms like learn how to carry in different carries. mom, like support, stuff like that. And then the other meeting or two meetings would be we would go on a hike. And which was great because then you could get out and about with other people and go hiking. You don't really want to go hiking alone in Alaska. I wouldn't recommend it, but I loved hiking. I love hiking. Like I'm really excited to be able to go hiking again when we move up to Virginia because I really enjoy just getting out into nature and enjoying just the beautifulness of like that's one of my favorite hobbies, but it's very hard to do when the closest hiking trail here is 35, 45 an hour, 20
like
away.
the ones that are close by are so hot. It's like, no, thank you.
Hot. And so I don't do a lot of hiking here unless I go up to the mountains. And then usually I'm tagging along the kids by myself. And I personally don't like taking the kids by myself because A, my kids are younger. B, I hate carrying my kids.
Yeah.
So like when they were little, I didn't mind putting them in like the hiking backpack. But now that they're too big for that, it's just like,
it's mostly just complaining and they want snacks. And we went on a really long hike recently and that was like, the hike was to get breakfast. I was like, you can't. They're like, I'm so hungry. I'm like, I know, but that's the point. You're supposed to be hungry.
And they always get hungry right at the beginning of the hike or like maybe 10 minutes in and you're like, you just ate.
Yeah.
Like you just ate.
Yeah, my kids ate breakfast and then we were hiking out to do pancakes, which is like one of the big hikes around the area that I live. And it was like, you have to hike to the end. I'm like, I'm not giving you snacks on the way. I didn't bring snacks or anything.
Okay.
No.
Especially when you were hiking to food. Like
yeah, we were hiking to the cafe and it wasn't even like uphill. It was like just a pretty flat, nice walk. Yeah.
I wish like my kids have gotten a little bit better, but like the last couple hikes we've done, like been hikes have been to like waterfalls. And so they get really excited because they get to go play in the water at the end. So they're really great about it. Claire totally fell asleep on our last hike on Jeremy's shoulders and it was so funny and so cute. But she was like 4, so she was tiny and that was a lot. We ended up hiking like 5 miles. So
yeah, is that the hike you took me on?
Yeah, it was the exact hike.
That was outrageous.
So yeah, that hike was, I thought it was only like a 2.5 mile hike round trip, and lo and behold, it was
at
like a 5 mile.
Yeah.
But it was, I mean, we were all like jumping in. Yeah. But like doing it one time, the second time it was easy breezy because I was like, yeah, we're almost there.
You said we're almost there the entire way. We were like, sure. That hike was fun though. Yeah, and we did a lot of hikes here too. Most of them end up being at castles, so I think it's enough of an excitement to keep my kids going. It's like straight up.
I loved doing that when we lived overseas. Like that was one of my favorite things to do was to go on hikes and explore the castles. I love history though. Like that's another one of like my hobbies. I wish I had more time to actually invest in that, like, doing like family history and things like that. But I have too much going on right now. I'm hoping like when we move to Virginia and I have a little less on my plate with like all FRG stuff and all that stuff is going to be going away. So I'm hoping I'll have more time to kind of focus on that over the next couple of years. But like even just history, like anytime we go someplace, I'm like, let's go to the museums or let's go check out the historical sites. Like it's always been something I've been interested in. And I think that's also really important to like nurse things that you're interested in. Like, you might not have time for it now, but try to find time for it in the future.
Yeah. No, history is cool too. I think that's why I love Europe is we get to go to all these really, really cool buildings. And there was some cool things there at Bragg too. I think one of the cool things that we did and you should do before you move is the Indian burial grounds that are just west of Southern Pines. If you go out towards 85, there's Indian burial grounds. And we took the kids there for their history last year for homeschooling stuff. And it was really cool. They have a really cool museum with a bunch of Indian artifacts. And then there's a whole area out there where supposedly Indians were buried underneath there. I mean, there's some huts and stuff that are supposedly from the time. I'm not really sure if that's actually accurate, but it was a cool thing. And then we try to do our history. That's pretty much how we do homeschool history, though, is just going to places. I don't see the point of textbooks to the extent of what we did it in school because I'm like, man, I don't remember any of that stuff because it was boring and you were required to read it. Where if we go and do it, I'm so much sure that they're going to remember that stuff. So
yeah. Well, and I just think it's important too, because like there's so much that the history textbooks don't actually like tell you on. So it's really nice to, but it's also really nice to put, like for instance, growing up, like we learned about World War I and World War II. When you get to go see these locations, it really puts it into a different perspective. Like, oh yeah, like I read about this and I saw a photo, but going and actually seeing Normandy Beach or any of the other like historical like locations, it's mind blowing, to be completely honest. Like, I hope everybody in their life at least gets to like, even going to like the Twin Towers in New York.
Mm.
Like just seeing the ground where that stood when we were all, I mean, I was in middle school when that happened. I remember it vividly. And right, yeah, middle school.
Mm-hmm.
And like going and visiting the site was very sombering. It was very like, yep, like made it real. Like we know it was real, but it just kind of sinks in like just an inch more, and you're just like, wow, like
Right. Yeah.
so.
And I think not everybody can afford to do Europe. I mean, if you can
Yeah,
get stationed over here, obviously do that because it's super cool. I know I always see that post like, should we go Oconus? It's like, absolutely do that. It's 3 years.
there's
It's
so
not
many
a
places.
major commitment.
Yeah, but there's so many places stateside that you can see like
Oh
historical.
yeah.
Like I mean, Fort
Especially
Bragg,
the
Fort
East
Liberty
Coast.
alone. Yeah, like anywhere on the East Coast, you're gonna see like everything from like the Civil War. If you were Fort Bragg, Fort Liberty, go down to Fort Fisher.
Mhm.
Like check out that battleground area down
That
there.
one's
Like
cool.
there's a battleship. Go check out the battleship and see like way our ancestors lived back in the past, and it's just so cool. Like I think history is a great way to remind us, and if it's a hobby that you're interested in, it's super fun to kind of look back and look at our mistakes, look back on like what we did good, and then
Yeah, it's
do
good
the
to know
same.
history, like so that it doesn't get repeated. And I think that's something that was really different from the last time we lived here in Europe is they actually talk about their history a lot more than they
Mm-hmm.
ever did before. It
Yeah,
was
so
always
Jeremy's.
pretty like, just
Mm-hmm.
don't say the words, don't talk about
Yeah,
this. And now they have, I don't know when they started requiring it, but they have plaques in front of every city hall that like shows
yeah,
the
and I
people
don't
that
remember
died,
that.
which is crazy.
Yeah,
Um,
I remember that. And Jeremy's gone over to Europe a couple times the past 2 years for those shooting competitions. And he was saying the same thing. He's like, I'm really kind of surprised on like how open and how much history is preserved here. He's like, I would have kind of thought some spaces these would be kind of trying to like hush hush, but they're like really like excited to share this with people. And I was like, well, you are in Holland and Belgium, so I mean it's a little different than if you went to maybe a different country. But um you were saying that like not that long ago in a podcast that they like had started like sharing
yeah.
all that stuff. And I think that's really interesting so that people can know like, hey, this many people died in this town. Like this is why we can't let another world war happen because
Yeah, and I
this.
think that's it. And I think it's sad because I think Germany, even till not maybe even recently, lost a lot of tourism from all of that, obviously, but like are still kind of having issues with people coming, which is crazy because Germany's gorgeous. It has everything. And
It's
even
so
though
pretty. It
that,
really
like
is.
when people come to visit us, like we're going to visit my uncle in Paris because they just didn't really have an interest in going to Germany, which is crazy to me. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my
I
gosh.
Now that you say that, I do think that like anytime family came over to visit us, they wanted to go to somewhere. They wanted to go to Italy. They wanted to go to France. They wanted to go somewhere else. And as someone who's lived there for a long time, Germany is a very pretty country. Like, there's a lot to offer. Um,
Like they have bad
so
history,
maybe,
but they've learned from it,
yeah,
and it's nothing
yeah.
like that at all. I
But I
honestly
mean,
think
what
Germany of all
country
the
doesn't
European
have,
countries is the most similar to America.
yeah, but I was like, what country doesn't have like a bad
Yeah,
history? Like, if
yeah,
you really truly think about it, like, what country doesn't have a dark past somewhere along their line?
absolutely. Yeah,
So, it, the only way people are going to move past that is to kind of focus on the now. And,
yeah. And I like to
you know,
read books about that time
yeah,
period because you come
I
to
love,
realize a lot of what it wasn't people that wanted to be involved. They were just, if they didn't get involved, their family died, they died.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
it's the people weren't the bad people. Obviously, it was just the force. That's just what it is. I mean, that's military in general, I guess. You think about it, like some things that our
Like,
military does, people probably don't think is great, but
oh yeah,
it's just their
100%.
job. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Books, you're like you said, books are an easy hobby to get into because it's something that you can do with a group of people and talk about it. And it's something you can do on your own if you are more of a introvert. And, I think there's some of the things that spouses come up with, like they make and stuff like that. I'm like, we are a group of people that shouldn't be taken lightly because like some of the things that people do, I'm just like, where'd you come up with that? Like that's genius.
we have a
Or
lot
the
of
amount
military spouses who write books. We've had so many on the show, and there's always like a list of people that want to come on the show to talk about their books.
there the amount of military spouses who are authors kind of blew my mind. Like, so the book that I'm reading a few books right now, but like the one I'm currently like kind of obsessing over is Fourth Wings, which is written by Rebecca Yarros, and she's a military spouse. And I didn't realize she was a military spouse until I like looked her up on TikTok, and I was like, oh no, that's not even true. The first time I realized she was a military spouse was her dedication page in Fourth Wing to her husband. And I was just like, oh, well, that's cool. But it's nice to know that like if you're a military spouse, you can still reach your dreams. Like if you want to be an author or you want to be a professional, like I mean, some of the influencers I follow on TikTok who are like really like well known are military spouses.
Yeah.
And so like you can do anything you put your mind to. Yeah, we may have a little bit more bumps in the road than other people may have because of like moving or having to balance your time because your significant other is deployed or gone and you have kids and whatnot. There's still that opportunity, and then you already know that you're going to have the support of the military spouse community, because I do feel like we do a really good job of hyping up other military spouses.
Yeah. Yeah. We were talking about that in a podcast a couple back where we are just like, oh, if you start a business, you're going to have tons of customers as long as you market to the military because we like to support one another. So,
Well, and not only that, but like families of military families want to support military families.
yeah.
So, because what was it? Was it Spousely? Someone like recommended Spousely. And I don't know if we recommended put that on there, but like that was a great place for like for military spouses who make things to like sell it, and everything's on there is a military spouse. And I think that's a great program. And it's so crazy. Like I said, it's so crazy to see what military spouses come up with, whether it's to better military life for military families or just finding their like niche and finding something that keeps them busy and it gives them a piece of some control over our crazy life, whether that's owning a small business or I don't know what it is, but having a little control over something, whether it's just a hobby where you can be like, yep, I know for 30 minutes a day I can read a book and I can control that, or if it's having like that small business or joining a group of something, I think can give a lot of power to a person if they just choose to do that.
Yeah, for sure. So we can talk about books because Ashley and I, we were talking about it. It's kind of crazy that over the years we've changed from not really, I mean, I've always read, but it was never to the extent of what I read now.
Yeah.
Um, so we do read a lot of books, so we can talk about some of our favorites for the year.
Well, I actually definitely have to give you props for getting me back into books because you're 100% the person who got me back into books. Because like I said, growing up I was really into books. And then in college, I read a lot. And then after college, it kind of just started dwindling.
Yeah.
Like it just, like I might read a book or two a year, give or take. And I've always missed it. And I always just like, I don't have time. Like I have to worry about the kids or I have to worry about this. And so you have to change that mindset. Like it's a mindset change. Like,
and it's easier than it used to be because you can listen to books. You can get a Kindle app on your phone.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true too. Cause like I do majority of my reading is audibles. Just because I'm in the car a lot or I'm working. So I'll throw my AirPods in and listen to the book while I'm working and stuff. So like that's and my work I don't have to like it's not like a lot of mind concentration. So I can listen to a book while I'm making graphics or something like that. So but yeah, no. How many books have you read this year
I'm
so far?
at 31.
Oh, I think you're ahead of me. Hang on. I'm at I'm at 28. But when I finish these three, I'm reading currently 3 right now.
Me too. See, that's insane to me. So like I used to read and it would be like I would finish a book and then I would like take a couple months off. I would read it, 5 or 6 books a year,
So,
but it was just like,
so
oh, I finished that
mine
book.
is
Now I don't have to read for a while. Now it's like, what book can I be reading at the same time? Like I always have a nonfiction and a fiction at least. And then it seems to be
yeah.
like one audio so that I have
Yeah. So
something
right now
going.
I have 2 on Audible, and the only reason I have 2, because normally I try to just keep it to 1 and then move on. But one of the books I'm reading is a little spicy. And so I couldn't listen to it in the car because
Yeah.
my husband has a new hobby. He got a motorcycle this past weekend. So he stole my AirPods. And so I couldn't listen to that one on our road trip back. So I had to find another book to listen to. So I started listening to another Audible book. So now I'm halfway through both books. So I'm just kind of like going in between each book. Actually, technically, I think I am reading 4, but I paused one book so I could read Fourth Wing, because that was book club or book.
Yeah.
Um, what's been your favorite so far this year?
This year, let me look at the books that I finished. For nonfiction, for sure, was Everybody Fights by the Holderness family. If you guys watch YouTube and you've seen the parodies from the Holderness,
I love them.
Everybody Fights was prime. It was so good,
Really?
especially in as military families, I think. I mean, they're not military, but like the connection and learning how to fight properly. Because it's basically they've had therapy and they talked about their therapy sessions and like how you're supposed to fight, right? It's unnatural to be in a relationship, a marriage for as long as we all are and not fight. That would be absolutely asinine. So they go on and they have like 5 or 6 different tips on how to fight better and like how to fight fairly with your spouse instead of doing the things that we all do, like giving each other the cold shoulder and not talking for weeks.
Mm-hmm. Guilty. But
Yeah.
you know what? It's been perfect since that. And if you listen to other podcasts, you might know what I'm talking about. But it's been real good since we had
The talk.
a little talk. But
But as nonfiction, that has and I highly recommend listening to it because you get not only the words, but you get their commentary and then like their jokes, and you
and
can
they're
hear when they're
so
actually
funny.
crying when they're reading parts, like how genuinely they felt when they were writing this book while also reading the book. Prime book if you need something like that. If you're even if you have a great relationship or you're getting married, actually, I honestly think this would be the best book to read as an engaged couple together to start out on the right foot.
Nice. That's yeah.
What
I
about
only I only read one book in that genre. Everything else is
you got to
fantasy.
pick them up.
So
those are the ones that I get from Libby. So I always
I
just pick like go in and select
yeah.
nonfiction audios
Well,
and listen.
yeah. So I actually read Courtney Boyer's book. She was on our podcast not that long ago, and so Not Tonight, Honey. Um, and it was really interesting just to kind of see the statistics and it was a book that you may, if you're going through it or you've gone through it or kind of have like, yeah, I can feel like, I don't have a sexual attraction or I don't want to do that. Like it was really, really interesting to read because I feel like at some point in our marriages, we all feel like a disconnect at some point, whether it's because of the army or the military or life or we're in that phase that cycle of like, oh, it's 7 years, it's 13 years or whatever it is. It was really interesting to read. It's a really quick read. It was like only 174 pages. So it was super quick to read. It was just really interesting. And I really enjoyed it. Like I normally don't read those type of books. Like I don't like it's not my cup of tea. Like I would love to like but I just find myself drifting off like during those type of books. So but again, I wanted to support a fellow military spouse. So I was like, I'm gonna read it. And it was a great read. But
Yeah, it's one of those I want to read with my spouse, but I don't think he'll read it. We tend to listen to books together, so
I would say that like it's an interesting fact. It would be interesting for a male to read because it gives them the perspective of why our mind goes one way. But there's a lot of like data in it, which is what I liked about it. I think that's why I liked it so much, was because there was a lot of like, Courtney really did do a good job of researching and pulling in not only like her experiences, but experience of other military spouses as well. And as a military spouse, it was really cool to be like, oh, like I'm not alone. And I feel like a lot of us feel alone
mm-hmm.
at certain aspects. And then like, the whole like taboo of like, like I feel like the last 2 years, like I've only ever been comfortable to talk about what goes behind closed doors with other people, because we've always kind of been taught like that's not something we talk about. And I think again it's a generational thing, and it's a little bit more open nowadays. And she goes into that like, we were trained, this was what was drilled into our heads as kids, and
Absolutely.
I think we don't talk about that kind of stuff, like, oh no, like, type of thing. And I was just like, oh yeah, like I don't ever remember having this conversation with my parents. I just kind of knew, hey, we were teen pregnancy, don't have sex. There was
Yeah.
no like why or what, none of that. So it was an interesting read. And I think that if anyone's ever struggled with how to express them sexually, like whether it's to express it with their partner or themselves, like she talks about like masturbation and things like that, and how that's really taboo too. And so and how just different ways to like overcome that, or how to retrain your brain to say it's okay. And I think that's important. So I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But like I said, again, it's not my cup of tea. My cup of tea is a little bit different.
So in the nonfiction realm, I'm really, really mean, I guess. My stars, I was scrolling through here. I was like, oh, I only have like 2 5 stars. I don't know. Because I don't I think I take a little bit of a break and then actually do the stars, because if I do it right out of the book, I'll be like, oh yeah, that was great. But then if I
Yeah.
actually sit back and think about it, I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
was it? Obviously
So
the first
I
one was Sorrow and Starlight. If you guys know Zodiac Academy, that was the book
and
8.
I liked it, but I didn't like it. It was too long.
I'm just frustrated at this point. If you know Zodiac Academy, like why do we have to keep waiting? And they keep making announcements about like these tiny novellas they're putting out that are just
Yeah.
like, I want to just finish the book.
Yeah.
So
So that's like that whole series is just a good read. Like if you just need something that is fast paced, something that you can just be sucked into, it's a good series
yeah,
for sure.
that's what we were kind of started to talk about before we started recording, was I need to like in my bullet journal or in Notion or something start like where I write the description of the books in there and stuff, because I have a problem of like Goodreads has my review, but it's literally a review. So then when I'm writing all these silly series that never end and they are books you're waiting for
And that book
years,
series is really long.
I
So
don't
if you
know. Yeah, and I don't remember what happened. And so it's like I either have to reread or I have to go like watch some YouTube video about the book,
yeah,
and it's so
yeah, or
frustrating.
TikTok to like, yeah. I feel like my thing right now is I just want some really good standalones, because I keep getting sucked into these really great like series. And I honestly, there's only been like a couple books that I've not like really cared for that I've read this year. But there's been some series where I'm just like, where's this been all my life? Like this was such a good series. Um, so the series I've read so far this year that I've really enjoyed are the Plated Prisoner series. And I really enjoyed it. There were certain parts where it was a little slow, but as a series as a whole, it was really, really good. Um, so a new series that's kind of come out that I really like that I don't think is talked a lot right now is the Kingdom of the Crows. So it's the House of Beating Wings and the House of Pounding Heart, and book 3 just came out. And I really enjoyed that series. And I don't know if it's just because there's not been a hype up about it, and I was kind of like the first of my, I feel like I'm always behind everybody when I'm reading the books. So it was like
Yeah.
a story that I've read before everybody that I like talk to
I
about
love
books.
reading books that don't have hype because
Yeah.
I hate being disappointed with books. I think that's my biggest thing is like if everybody else is like, oh, this is the best book ever, and I read it and I'm like,
So, and that's
no,
kind of like what
it
I felt
wasn't.
about other books, like Rhapsodic, whatever it's called, the first book in the Bargainer series. It felt short for me, but I feel like that's because it was so hyped up. Like it was an okay book, but like I don't know, like that's one of the book series where I'm like, I don't really think I'm gonna move on to the next book. Like it wasn't anything to me.
Yeah, we
Um,
read one recently that was hyped all over TikTok, Jade City. We read it together. We listened to it on our walks, but I just can't. It's so political. Everything is about politics, and I'm not even that like drawn into the few characters that are like big. So I'm like,
mhm.
I don't know if we'll finish this series. Like, and everybody's like, this is the best fantasy series I've read in a long time. But to me, it also wasn't
Yeah, I haven't
fantasy.
even heard of that series.
It wasn't really fantasy. The only thing that made it fantasy is because they wore jade and it made them stronger. Otherwise, it was
Oh,
just political mob wars, basically. I was like, I don't really get this book at all.
yeah. I'm reading the Bonsai Taya series right now, and I'm obsessed with it. Like it's a reverse harem. No, yes, maybe. I need to learn book talk lingo. That's my issue right now. So, it's a fantasy book, and there's some spice in it, and it's not super spicy, which is nice. The book I'm currently on is spicy. That's why I can't listen to it in the car. But anyways, um, like it's an easy read, so I think that's why I like it. Like it's just an easy. It flows really good. There's not a lot of fluff. There's just enough to build up the anticipation and the what you need to know. I think that's where Zodiac Academy kind of fell for me. There was just a lot of stuff where I'm like, why is that even in here?
Yeah.
But it was you were sucked in on the storyline. And that's how I feel on this
And
one.
the
Like I'm
characters.
stuck.
I think that that book, the reason I love
Mhm.
it is the characters. She
The
draws
character.
characters really well.
Yeah, and that's why I like the Bonsai Ties. I really like the characters. And I think that's why I like Fourth Wing so much. I think it deserves the hype it's getting. Um, but I will say though, if you are not a dystopia, if you didn't like Hunger Games or Divergent growing up, and I think that's why it's clicking so well with our generation compared to like maybe the younger generation. It has that vibe, but I'm loving the characters in this book. But I think I also like I connect with characters that I can reflect myself into. Like I
Yeah.
could see like, oh, like I can feel
I didn't
like
realize I do that so much, but my brother came to visit on the, well, we went on a trip this last weekend and he had left me a book to read. And then I was like, oh, here's all the books that I've read recently. You can take anything you want. And he was looking through them and I was like, but they're all in female perspective. I don't really want to read this. I was like, oh, wait, they are. Like, I don't even realize that I'm reading that. I don't know if that how I'm even managing to do that because they're just books that I picked up that's the story sounded cool. I don't even know if I knew they were in the female perspective when I
and I
bought
feel like
them.
a lot of fantasy storylines are in a female perspective for the majority part, but that I feel like I don't know, that is more of a female genre. But I mean,
Especially
I
the
know I'm not in
spicy
that.
like romance that we're kind
Yeah,
of in. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. We like that little bit of spice. We like the little. I think that's why I like this character because the main male character for some reason reminds me of Jeremy. Like the
You're
dark,
living it.
like always really quiet, and then kind of has something snarky to say. Like that's just the vibe I get from this character, and that's just my husband to a T. And so I'm just kind of like, oh, and then like the female character is like considered like a weakling, and I don't see myself as a weakling, but I'm definitely not my strongest self, I guess. Like I could be. So I'm like vibing with this book, and it's definitely the book I've read the fastest in forever, which is I personally that shows that I'm really interested in this book because
Yeah, the only
I
TikTok one that I actually really liked was The Housemaid.
see I haven't read it yet.
I
Do
You
you
should
like
read
it?
it. It was
Okay.
I read it probably in 2 days. It's not a very long book and it's crazy. If you read it, you
Okay,
know.
I'll have
The
to.
second one was super disappointing though, because it was
Okay.
basically the same thing as the first one, and you just kind
See,
of
and
like,
that's annoying.
yeah,
That's annoying when like you're like, oh, I'm gonna read the next book, and then it either doesn't get better or it's just like this is literally what just happened.
yeah, yeah. It was just kind of like meh. I don't know. And the only other one that I have on here is a 5-star. There was a lot of good books that I read, but they just kind of weren't that great. Was The Daughters of War, and I just finished that one. And
The
I
Daughter of
ordered the
No
second
Worlds?
book off of Thrift Books
No.
immediately.
Daughter of what?
Daughters of War.
Of
It's about
War.
World War II. They're French girls that were
Yeah.
invaded by the Nazis, and it was really cool. And then I just went to France this last weekend, so I got the like perspective of exactly where they lived, kind of situation, and it was different to see it from the World War II from a different perspective, I guess,
Mhm.
from like a country who was not involved, but they were so much forced to be involved in the
Yeah.
situation.
So
And it's a series too, so I'm
is it?
excited to
I
read
wrote it
them.
down. Because like I really like historical fiction books. Like that is like my other like and I finally finished The Diamond Eye. Like I bought that book last year and then I finished that actually on my way up to Tennessee this past week. Um and I really enjoyed it because it was another like it follows so it's based off of a real person and her like information about her and then it was just kind of like fluffed up and stuff. So it was really interesting to like, it was a Russian female sniper. So
That's
it was,
crazy. Yeah.
really interesting to kind of get another view of, you know, World War II
From a totally
and
different perspective.
from a
Absolutely.
totally different perspective because like you're getting like her like that's by Kate Quinn and I really like her as an author. Like I have like there none of her books really disappointed me and you have like most of the other one book's about a spy, one book's about a decoder, but this one was someone who was on the line, who was injured, who is a real life person, like um who really was a person who did all these things. So it was really interesting to read a different perspective. And I actually enjoyed it. Like I wasn't sure I was going to enjoy it, but um it was, I mean, I gave it a 4-star just because I liked the other books from her a lot better, but
Right.
it was,
Yeah. I've
that,
only had one book this year that I was just like, nope, was not it for me at all. I we listened to it as a couple, Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. Um, I've come to the perspective of I just don't like Matthew McConaughey
did he
anyway.
read it too? Like did he
Yes,
narrate?
so I had to listen to his voice the whole time, and I was just like, and Dustin loved it. So I think it's just a
Oh, of
difference
course
between
he
female and male perspective of it. I
yeah,
think
very
because my brother, I talked to him about it, and he loved it too. So I'm like, I don't know, I just freaking do not
it,
like him. It made me not want to ever watch him in a movie again.
really.
I was just like, it's a big no for me, but I had to get through the whole thing because Dustin was enjoying it. So we had
That's
to
so
keep listening to it. I'm just like zoned out on the walk, like I can't hear him talk about because he talked about wet dreams 3 times. 3 times.
3 times.
And
Okay.
in detail about the dreams. And they're not like sexy wet dreams. They're like weird ass things that he thinks of. And I'm just like, I can't.
Oh, so you
I
got
can't.
dominate and personable.
It's just
Yeah, there was only I feel like the only book that there's 2 books that I read this year that I was just like I think one of them was hyped up and it was Stalking Jack the Ripper. And I didn't like it.
wasn't
I
it.
mean,
Yeah.
it just wasn't it. It was very like the twist of Jack the Ripper story was kind of cool, but it was that was one of those books that was super hyped up and everyone was like, this is great. And it was just like it really wasn't. And then last month I read Twisted Love.
I
It
don't think
wasn't
I
a
can get into
bad book.
that series. I think it's too dark on that, like too far into that genre.
So it gave me it to me it literally was 50 Shades of Grey rewritten to a modern time with the dark twist of murder
Yeah.
into it. And I was just like, it wasn't a bad book, but it was like it's one of those books where I'm like, I won't probably read the rest of the
I
series
think
because
it just went too far. That was one that I like read the thing of and I was like, it's just too much. We went too
yeah,
far into the like spicy to a world that I would never live in, I guess.
yeah.
So
Well, and I feel like I can handle spice I don't know. Like I like spicy books, but like it literally felt like 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah.
Like just reread. And I was just like, it felt like I've already read this story. It's just you made the character a non-white character, made them non-white characters, and then you added in the revenge plot twist type of thing, and that was the only difference to me.
Yeah.
The only difference. So, and that was the only other book that I was just like, like
I actually didn't finish one book, and it was Eat, Pray, Love. I bought it when I was in Italy, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna read this. Hated it. Immediately hated it. I only got through a few chapters, and I was like, she is just whiny. She's not even appreciating the things she's doing and kidding. And I just could not. I was like, I cannot read this.
I have not DNF any books yet, partially because I've already paid for them on like, especially if it's an Audible. If it's an Audible, I push through and I finish listening to it. Now I have DNF series, like I said, like I'm not gonna like, I don't think I'm gonna continue. I haven't decided if I'm going to continue the War of Lost Hearts series, which is the first book was Daughter of No Worlds. Like it was a good book, but it just, I feel like I like the other series better that I've been reading, so I've been focusing on those. So I may go back later and finish that series, but it's just kind of been like it was an okay book.
Yeah.
But and then I'm currently reading, like I said, I'm reading 4 books right now. But one I have kind of tucked away until I finish Fourth Wing, which I should have Fourth Wing finished tonight, maybe tomorrow. It's good. It deserves the hype that it's getting, but only if you like that kind of storyline. Like if you did not like Divergent and you did not like Hunger Games, if you don't like, well, I don't know about the dragon part because I have a friend who says she hates books about dragons and she loved this book.
I'm super excited for it just because of the dragon part, because I read Throne of Glass and the dragon in there I was absolutely in love with. And so like
I'll have to like try to get you the book and send it to you. Like it's right now it's just,
I was gonna say I don't know where you're gonna get it. It's insane.
I don't know where to get it right now either. But it is like I ordered mine on Mother's Day and I didn't get it for like a month later, and I was so worried that I wasn't going to get the pretty sprayed edges because I was like, I knew I should have picked it up when I saw it in the stores, and I was like, no, I'll just
but you're all gonna be mad because she's gonna put the second book out like not look at all like that one. She's gonna put them out as 2 and they're gonna be beautiful.
Yeah, no, I don't think I think the second book has been said that it's going to have black sprayed edges, but it's not going to have the gold stenciling, which I'm okay with. Like
nobody's gonna see that part of your book on the shelf, like, honestly.
It's okay. I always just kind of like this, like if I have it in hardback, I want all the hardbacks, or if I have it paper, I want it on paper. Yeah, I know you can see I know you can't see it, but like how it's grown. Like
so cute.
I like 3
books, so nobody can see it anyways.
I have a lot of books though that I need to read though on my bookshelf.
I'm reading 3 books. I'm reading The Homewreckers. I don't know what it is, but I got it Kindle Unlimited for free, obviously. Beyond the Wand, I wanted to read it so bad, and that's the one that my brother brought me, the Tom Felton book, Draco Malfoy.
Oh, you can tell me how that one is.
Yeah, I'm excited to read it. I know it's basically just about Harry Potter, so it's gonna be good, right? Okay. Yeah, and then I'm reading Cultish, which is a nonfiction about cults and cult language and stuff. So it's interesting. It's something gets me through washing dishes every day.
You're reading a very good bride variety. I am reading one non-fantasy book. So I'm reading The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And then Fourth Wing. And then the second book of so I'm reading The Ashes and the Star-Crossed King. And then I'm reading the 3rd book in the Bonset Taya series. So
I have a ton of books though in my Kindle library that I don't even want to talk about with that the 30th. I was like, I'm not going to do that again. I did it the time before and I never read any.
I was literally just getting ready to say I was literally just getting ready to say I downloaded a bunch during Stuff Your Kindle Day, and I'm like, I don't even know if I'm ever going to read any of these, but I have them in there.
I have so many books in my Kindle library. It's unreasonable. Like there's so many that I want to read, and I'm like, will I ever read these? I have absolutely no idea. But the one that I just got tonight that I'm super excited about is the Serpent and the Wings of Night.
Yes. So that one's really good. So the king of the last book that I said, or the, oh goodness gracious, um, it's such a long title, so I always have to look at it when I read it. The kingdom, nope, the Ashes and the Star-Crossed King is book 2 to that series. So I really like. There's a novella that I would suggest reading before you read book 2. It's really short. It's called like the Six Scorched Roses or something. They're all on Kindle Unlimited. And it introduces 2 characters that are in book 2. And I don't really know if it's important. Like the character's shown up a couple times in book 2, but I don't know. Like that story hasn't played a role in this story yet.
Right.
So I don't know if it's really important to
or not. Yeah.
if it will or not. Like it talks about the character, and I think he's important somehow. Like it talks, anyways. There's a short novella that like goes in between. Like I read that one super quick in between, and then I've had a hard time reading through it, but I think it's just because it's on my Kindle, and I was having a hard time reading on my Kindle for a while, but then I purchased like a Kindle like paperweight. Yeah. And so I've been able to read in bed when it's dark, and it's been a little bit easier because I have the Kindle Scribe and I love that, but it's so big. So it's not very, and I bought it for different reasons. I bought it to read on, but I also bought it for note taking and stuff for like work and stuff, to kind of save on all my paper scraps that I have. But it's not comfortable to read like in bed. Like it's as big as an iPad, if not bigger. And so I was like, this is not any fun.
That was like landing on your face.
Yeah, it was just like my hands were hurting, my arms were falling. It's like I couldn't like lay on my side like in like fetal position, anything like that. And so I got a Kindle paperweight off of Marketplace for like $40. And it has like a little like dent on the screen, but it doesn't really bother me, so it works out fine. So
yeah,
and so now I can sit in the dark and read, and not on my phone.
More time to read. There's less excuses,
right? So the last couple nights, so I've been reading Fourth Wing, and I've had the lamp on, and I keep like, Jeremy, is this okay? He's like, yeah, it's fine. And he's like curling up and going to sleep, and I'm like, I feel bad, I should turn the light off, but like I really want to keep reading.
A little like lamp thing that goes on your book.
I had one. I've had like several, but my kids keep finding them and breaking them, and I'm just like, like
one of the cool ones are like rulers that have like a light that just kind of glows out of it.
Well, in all fairness, the ones that I keep buying are the ones from like the the Target $3 section. So like they're probably not built to last anyways. Yeah. But I enjoyed getting back into this hobby. Like it's kind of given me like a little bit of myself back, but it also like is a great escape. Like we have a crazy life, not only is it crazy because we have kids, but it's crazy because we're military spouses. It's crazy because we're just people in today's world, and it can be crazy and chaotic and kind of scary at times. And it's really nice to just escape. And I I think I've said this before, I'm a very visual reader. So like I fully escape into the books. Like I can see the world inside my head, and I can visualize the character. And I'm so weird. Like if they make like a noise or something, I will do it out loud just to make sure it was organic.
To see what it's like. It's like the TikToks of the spouse I'm like wanting to see what like leaned against the frame of the door.
Like if they make a noise or if they do something, I'm like in my mind or out loud, a lot of times my kids are like, why are you scoffing or something like that? And I'm like, well, because I just wanted to see if it fit right in this like dialogue. And it's so funny because I'll just randomly do something and I'm just like, don't worry about me, it's fine.
But it is a great escape, and I think that especially if you're going through deployments, that's a great way to not watch TV and not be on your social media and worrying about stuff.
But also, what's really great about that is you and your spouse could read the books together, and that gives you something to talk about. Like, I feel like there are some spouses who kind of like, sometimes we just don't know what to talk about. Find a hobby to do together, whether it's reading or I don't know. There's so many different things that you guys could both do while he's deployed, because majority of the time they have some downtime,
You can even watch
and
shows together. You can
those
watch, you can
together.
do
Yeah.
painting nights. Kind of. You could send the kid, like a kid to
Yeah.
do it.
I think it just depends on like your personalities. Like I feel like Jeremy and I would potentially read this. I don't think I could ever get him to read my fantasy books, but
Dustin's read
I
a
know
few
that
of mine, but not all
he
of them.
has.
Yeah.
And I mean, I would be shocked if Jeremy picked up one of these books and read it and be like, I like this. Like, it's just not, I mean, I don't know. But, like the other night, like he pulled out a book that he was reading that he bought that was, like he bought right before he went to West Point and stuff. And, I was like, oh, like we're like two cute couples, like reading books in bed. Like, this is so fun. Um, but reading books while you're deployed, that gives you something to talk about, whether it's a book.
Especially if you don't have kids. I do feel like
Yeah.
the deployments that I've gone through without the kids, it was weird because like what are you going to update him on? Like my job, he doesn't care what I'm doing at my part-time job. Like,
Or I miss you, why aren't you
yeah.
calling anymore, things like that. So it is different when you have kids, because then you can just literally talk about what the kids are doing like
Yeah.
all the time. But it's nice to have like something where you're like, I know I can talk about this. Like, okay, did you finish chapter 2 yet? Like, I have to talk to you about like what happened in this chapter.
For sure.
And I think that's a great way to also maybe spice up your relationships. Start a hobby together. Like, it doesn't have to just be for yourself.
Could be any kind of hobby, just like hiking, all of that is nice to do together.
Yeah. Or show interest in the other person's hobby, even if it's not something you like to do. Like,
Just
try it, and then you'll be surprised on what may come out of it. Like, like Jeremy got into hunting. I was like, I'm never gonna be interested in that. And then I was like, after a couple years, after like a year, I was like, I think I want my own bow. Like, I think it would just be fun to shoot the bow in the backyard with you. And then maybe like when the kids get older, I can go out with you and go sit in a tree quietly.
Read a book.
Several hours, read a book, maybe go hunting. I don't know. But I was like, maybe I should learn how to do the bow first.
Yeah,
so
that's a good idea.
And like I said, like he just got a motorcycle, and I was just like, he has, and boys have expensive hobbies. Don't let them try to fool you that girls have expensive hobbies. I mean, books can be expensive, but there's ways around that to where it's not expensive. My God, my husband's hobbies
always
are so expensive. Shooting, hunting, now motorcycle, like
that one's gonna get expensive fast. He starts buying more stuff for it too. Oh man.
I didn't even know he was getting this. Like, I knew he wanted a motorcycle, and I knew, like, I had already agreed, like, yeah, you can get one, like, it's fine. I swear to God, I thought we were gonna get it after he moved. No. I got a text saying, don't freak out, something happened. Yeah. And I was like, oh Lord, what happened? Thinking he might have broke something, but then back in my mind, I was like, that person went and bought a motorcycle. Lo and behold, he sends me a picture of him on a motorcycle in our driveway, and I was like, how did you even get that home? Like, you don't know how to drive this.
Apparently he figured it out fast.
He figured it out fast because he met us, and he drove up. So I had him meet us in Greensboro on our way back from Tennessee. I was like, let's take the kids to the science center. And the dummy comes rolling in on that new motorcycle. I was like, wonderful. This is what has started. Like, he's going out with his friends tomorrow on a ride. I was like,
yay.
I'm like, oh my goodness.
Well, this was fun to talk about. This was something different.
It
was. We can talk about the same topics. I mean, that's military life and it's fun, but
it's nice to have like these like everyday chats that like we can just take a breath and be like, this is what brings us joy. Like, find your joy too.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
Yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed listening to us chat about all kinds of things. It kind of went off the rails in a lot of ways, but that's okay.
That's us.
That's us in general, right? So we will be back. We have more episodes already that we're recording this month even, so we have more things coming up. I can't think of I know we're talking travel soon. I don't know. We have a lot of really cool guests that are signed up for the rest of the year. We were booked all the way through the year, so really excited to bring you guys some more awesome resources and fun things to talk about. If you want to find us anywhere, you can find us. We do have Facebook and Instagram. So we would love for you to join us on those channels and come join the chat and tell us what books you are reading or what your hobbies are. And we will catch you guys on the next one. And like we like to say, ruck up, Buttercup.